Земля, люди-боги и мы, распятые на кресте толкования.
So, dear friends, I welcome you once more. So, I think we could start. The other will join us little by little, and I'm really happy that coronavirus has inspired us to meet all of us online, because that was almost obvious that we should use some technical possibilities in order to promote alternative understanding of the future. And now we are here, so that has happened. It is interesting that some days ago, before our conference, after publishing my video that I have here, the link, I could repeat it, on conference dedicated to today's event. After that, my account was blocked with my lectures on Aristotle, because I wanted to publish my lecture before this conference in order to save the time, in order to hear you more, not to take too much time. So I have published that, and immediately after that, my account was blocked. In my lecture, I have spoken about this horrible form of totalitarian liberalism, that liberalism becomes more and more openly totalitarian, that cancel culture tries to eliminate the other. So, and as huge confirmation of that, my account was deleted, as well as Paideuma TV, where we are, that now is the host of our conference. So they have tried to destroy everything immediately. So how important I think our conference is, because liberals, globalists, they wanted to cancel it, to not let it happen. So I really happy that you are here, that we could speak and discuss as free thinkers. I think that today's gathering is not the gathering of the people who share totally each other opinions. We are very different. Sometimes we are opposites in different geopolitical, national, political, ideological issues, but there is one thing that unites us. It is the free thought. We are free thinking persons, and that is our dignity. It is our nature. And I think that our first international Congress dedicated to fourth political theory is precisely invitation of the people of the world to think freely, to defend the freedom of speech, the freedom of thought, the freedom of beliefs. That is very important. The liberals who act in the name of the freedom today become the greatest enemies of the real freedom of speech, of thought, and of opinion. How we have get to such a situation, it is a long story. And first of all, in my opinion, to get out of this situation, we need to think beyond Western political modernity. So that is main idea of today's conference, of present conference. We need to overcome, to go beyond the Western political modernity, represented today by liberalism, and that is precisely the global power, global hegemony, global epistemological cultural, political, technological, economical in form of the global capitalism, ideological in form of liberalism, geopolitically in form of unipolarity. It is the main fortress of the Western political modernity. But trying to get beyond the capital liberalism, go beyond globalization in full decay, in full collapse, we should not fall into the trap of the communist or fascism. Communists and fascism are the other forms of Western political modernity. And in order to get out of this liberalism, we should not to adhere to the other forms of the same political modernity, the same atheist, materialist, modernist, progressist, technocentric forms of political thought. So we badly need fourth political theory, something outside of liberalism, communism, and fascism. So, and that we should concentrate precisely on the future, not about so much about the past, but about the future, because now we see how deep decay of liberalism is. When they cancel everything from our culture, they try to impose on us their sanctions, they attack us, they try to demonize and marginalize us. At the same time, the West is destroying today the roots of the Western culture, of the Western civilization. What we are dealing with is not anymore Western culture or Western civilization. It is something anti-Western civilization, something, a kind of disease, postmodern liberal disease of the West. It is, so we are fighting not against the West, East against the West. That belongs to the past. That is wrong. We should oppose to this liberal hegemony in order to create multiplicity of the choices and the solution. We need not a return to the bipolar or three-polar world. We need to open the possibility to different people and different civilization to prosper, to flourish, to find their way to the future. So we should come out from the boundaries of the Western political modernity, coming to the pre-modernity of the West, to the Greco-Roman classical Middle Ages culture of the West that was destroyed completely with the modernity, and we should seek inspiration outside of the West, in the Eastern form of political ideological thought, in the Chinese culture, Indian culture, Islamic culture, African culture, all the cultures that were colonized by the Western political modernity should be rehabilitated and restored in their dignity. So our identities are different, but we have the same main problem in front of us. They try to impose on us their vision, their mind, their civilization, and we need to reaffirm and defend our own civilizations. And that is not about how Russophile or pro-Putin or anti-Putin or Russophobe you are. That is nothing about Russia, nothing absolutely. It is about you. It is about China, about Syria, about Lebanon, about Muslim Turkey, about Africa, about Latin America, about Europe, about United States. Fourth political theory has nothing Russian at all in it. It is absolutely not Russian. It is invitation to each people to defend its own identity outside of the imposition of the modern day liberalism or Western political modernity. And the only difference, the very important, the essential difference of fourth political theory is rejection of the communism and fascism, not because they are totally wrong, but they represent to the same paradigm, to the same form of Western political thought based on egoism, materialism, on the atheism. So that is modernity that is wrong, not so much West. The West is not only a criminal, but as well the victim of this political modernity. So we should liberate the West as well. United States of America, we should liberate from this globalist swamp. So in order to get to American people this freedom and the possibility to reaffirm and construct the society Americans want, not imposed from this cosmopolitan, maniac liberal elite that try to hijack American identity. The same with Europe, the same with Eastern Europe, with Western Europe, with Muslim world. So we are totally different, and that is nice. That is perfect. So that is my that is more or less all that is force political theory. It is not the dogmatic. That is not affirmation of some concrete principles or dogmas. It is invitation to go beyond liberalism, not falling into the old-fashioned communism and fascism, to go beyond all Western political modernity and find the new ways in the past, inspiring by the past, but going to the future. So it is, in some sense, it is the postmodern, not in the leftist liberal understanding of postmodernity. It is postmodernity of multipolar postmodernity. The postmodernity that we should create freely, not as they say as liberals want us to follow, because there is defined now it is defined for the meaning of the postmodernity, because they try to impose their liberal, post-liberal, left-liberal version of postmodernity, and we should overcome modernity in our way. It's defending our own identities and going our ways. So fighting for the real freedom, for multiplicity of cultures and civilizations. We could not create hierarchy between society. Oh, this society is well developed, or this society is underdeveloped, or this society has human rights, politics, the other not yet. As if human rights theory is something universal. It is just one of the possible version of understanding the ideology. It is liberalism. Human rights ideology, it is liberal, Western, postmodern, and modern ideology, nothing else. And it is based on a double standard. Because if you are in favor of their understanding of human rights, you are a good guy. If you want to defend your society, put by the West, for example, by Western imperialism in the mess of the civil war or genocide, you are not with human rights. You have no human rights at all. So this double standard, this ideology of human rights, that all the history of domination and colonization. If, for example, Muslim civilization, Indian civilization, Chinese civilization, Russian Orthodox civilization, Islamic civilization, African, has different principles, different from liberal principles. They should be accepted, affirmed, and defended. In cases when we don't, for example, share them at all, that is necessary to be together, to defend our different identities in order to win this main threat for the humanity. This globalist, postmodern, technocentric, liberal version of globalization. So that is main idea, and I invite you to speak about that, about how to overcome liberal actual moment, liberal civilization, what we could propose as alternative. It is clear, it is in a deep crisis. The crisis is growing and growing and growing. Something now, United States is almost in the situation of the civil war, but nobody will win in this civil war. Everybody will lose more and more because there is a civil war between the brothers. We should not be happy with that. It could come to our countries as well, and Syrians, our friends, know how terrible is the civil war. So maybe we have some problem with American imperialism, but we don't wish to America to be involved in the civil war. So nobody should experience this terrible thing when the brother killed the brother. That is absolutely against nature. So I think that we need to try to promote something outside of the collapse, outside of the crisis that is already here. So the problem is not how to win them, the liberals. They are destroying themselves today. They are in auto decay, but we need to propose something. Otherwise, they will find a way out of it. So, if, for example, we will stand for communism, socialism, or fascism, it is easy to them to show how weak we are. They have already the experience of to win this Western political modern alternative to liberalism. So we need to imagine something outside of this concept. We could inspire and find inspiration in tradition, in the sacred tradition of the West and of the East. And we should find inspiration outside of the West. But the West is only part of the humanity. There is excellent, fantastic civilization of ancient India that is still here in modern Indian society. The majority, absolute majority of Indians are living in the pre-modern society, in post-traditional society. The same up to a certain moment with Chinese, with Islamic civilization, or maybe every people could propose its own version, how combine tradition, identity, sacredness, religious principles with some development. But it is open questions. There are no dogmas. We should not judge the other. We should talk with other. We should try to understand the other. So we should search inspiration outside of the Western political modernity. Everywhere outside Western political modernity. Everything could be of use in this first political theory. And there is not only one first political theory for everybody. It will be the same hegemony or same globalization. First political theory should be necessary, different in each civilization, in each country. I have more in details. I have spoken in my message to this, in lecture or my speech. I have put now in the chat the link on this more complete explanation of what is first political first political theory. But I just wanted to remind you some main principles. And the last thing I would like to say, it is that I think that we need, if we come to some conclusion, so we need to put this conclusion, our ideas to the practice. So I think if we agree on the necessity to get beyond the liberalism, so we need to try to establish some educational project, common educational project, traditionalist on one part, maybe postmodern in other sense, but that will be the island of the free thought, not island and physical. It will be universal, global islands of free thought and deep knowledge, trying to restore the dignity and defend the dignity of sacred traditions and all kinds of social, political, ideological, religious diversity. And when the liberals say they defend diversity, they defend freedom, they defend multiplicity of the position, that is pure lie. They destroy any intention to defend the liberty to speak freely, to act freely, and to believe in what they immediately could name as authoritarian, toxic, patriarchal, or totalitarian, and so on. So they impose on us their totalitarian rule, and epistemology education, it is main tool for that. So we need to fight against epistemological aggression by epistemological counterattack. So that is my idea to try to think, to organize, using as well online capacity, something like a multipolar university, something like that. Online university that we could share the knowledge, epistemological principles of the alternative vision. And so we are going to create the future. Because recently I made a lecture on Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari in my course on psychoanalysis and psychology. And I have read in their texts from the 70s and 80s exact description of what we have now. So the leftists, the postmodernists, they have thought many years before of how the society should look like. Now we are inside of schizophrenic society theorized by Deleuze and Guattari. It became the future. If we miss this image of the future, they will win us. So we need to concentrate on our alternative image of the future and promote it with educational network, alternative free educational network. So now I would like to give the possibility to lead us to Secretary of our conference, Jeff Arnold. Jeff Arnold from USA, our Eurasian friend and scholar in philosophy and traditionalism, in perennial philosophy. And he will, at the end of his speech, he will introduce you to the rule of today's conference about technical details and all other practical things. And I would like, if you permit me, from time to time, make short comments or ask the questions or stress some important point. I thank you very, very much for your assistance. I see many friends, old friends and very close friends from my youth, from all the continents, from my grown-up life, and some new faces who for sure will become my new friends. So we are not alone in this world. That is as well the goal of our conference, to show that together and respecting the differences between us, we can and will win. And the last thing, I ask you politely, because we are very different from different civilizations, please don't insist on some problematic geopolitical issues, on some international, interreligious aspect. We are here in the world audience, where there are Muslim, Christians, atheists, Buddhists, Hinduists, Jews, Orthodox, the people without clear religious versions from all the countries. So if we don't blame each other, try to in this conference. Maybe I don't invite you to cancel or the identities, but just in this conference, let us try to be respectful, including when we are sometime on the opposite position in some concrete geopolitical or political political camps. So thank you. Please, Jave, continue.
Thank you, Professor Dugin. Greetings to everyone here. To open this conference following Professor Dugin, if that's possible, and before presenting the technical details and regulations of our conference, I'd like to start with a few minutes of general remarks on what I would call the uniqueness of the fourth political theory and what we're doing here today. Now, it may come off as cliche to say that this is a unique conference and a unique endeavor, but I think it would be difficult to otherwise compare what we are engaged in here to just any other attempts at political philosophical reflection. In the world of modernity, the only uniqueness that is permitted is that of the new and modern against all that is deemed or called outmoded, of the past, traditional. In other words, against everything and all that is not unique because it is not modern. And nothing else is allowed to remain unique by the paradigm of modernity. The timeless uniqueness of different cultures, peoples, and languages, the uniquenesses of different traditions, systems, histories, and ideas is supposed to be liquidated, overcome by this uniform, globalized progress of the modern Western model. Just 30 years ago, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, political philosophers of the first political theory of modernity, liberalism, were declaring the end of history. There were to be no more differences, no more uniquenesses in the way of the global triumph of modern Western liberalism as the one ideology and system for all, of course, under the leadership of the United States of America. However, also in their time, the second and third political theories of modernity promised their own versions of the end of uniqueness, whether the globalized homogeneity of communism or the rule of one nation state or race over all others. And in the postmodern world, which many of us find ourselves faced with now, everything is supposed to be and is marketed as unique, to the point that uniqueness itself becomes something banal, something meaningless, something like an odd curiosity for a pastime, or something like every other thing on the market. For postmodernist newspeak, any deep declaration of uniqueness is seen as an authoritarian assertion of hierarchy, a reactionary defense of lost constructs, or some kind of obsession with one thing interrupting the kaleidoscope of every other thing and sub-thing. And I'd like to say that it's against this backdrop that the project to engage in developing a fourth political theory, to engage in fourth political theorizing, is authentically unique. The idea of fourth political theorizing, as Professor Dugin has presented, challenges us to think about the fact that the last 3 centuries of political ideology centered in the modern West mark but a speck on the timeline and map of history. They're not the end of theory and the end of politics, and that the crisis of ideas and world order, which we are living in the early 21st century, is only the end of one paradigm, which, while it claimed for itself universal uniqueness, has clearly become neither universally desirable nor sustainable. Without a doubt, we are currently experiencing the absolute crisis of the modern political philosophical architecture as a whole. First and foremost, of course, in the crisis and disintegration of the world order that was established by modern Western liberalism out of its earlier conflict with the other 2 modern political theories. This crisis, I would say, or even more importantly, consciousness of this crisis, is what harbors a unique possibility. We are faced with the possibility of moving beyond the modern political philosophical spectrum altogether, the possibility of realizing the existential fact that we are by no means fated to eternally remain within the wars of modernity and its 3 political theories. We have the opportunity to rediscover the vaster horizons of philosophy and history beyond 18th and 19th century ideologies. We have the opportunity to establish a polylogue between cultures, ideas, and political systems, to move toward a fourth political theorizing whose perspectives are not limited to the last handful of centuries of the modern arrangement of hegemony. The idea of the fourth political theory is unique because of this philosophical freedom. It's unique because, unlike the three political theories of modernity, it's not a closed system of universalist claims restricted to the past 3 centuries. It's a proposal to transcend the framework of modernity by recognizing the plurality, the diversity of unique cultures, systems, ideologies, and whole paradigms. It's a reminder that there are millennia of traditions, ideas, and systems which provide ample material for reconsidering political philosophy beyond the way it's been cornered in Western modernity. And so, to proceed with that thought, the very idea of fourth political theorizing and a conference on envisioning a fourth political theory is unique because such places the uniqueness of the diversity of civilizations and their possible politics as the primordial and perennial fact. There have always been and are many different civilizations, cultures, political systems, and visions of world order which cannot be reduced to the modern Western notions of the individual, class, nation state, or race, nor can they be erased by the liberal model or claim to progressive globalization. I think that the task of fourth political theorizing poses the uniqueness of this twofold reality as its starting point. On the one hand, no single political theory can represent the question and answer for all civilizations. On the other hand, it's precisely this common opposition between the fundamental existential diversity of civilizations and the aggressive, homogenizing, unipolar, anti-unique trajectory of the politics of modernity and crisis. That's the common ground for conceptualizing fourth political theorizing as a kind of space of polylogue between civilizations. No other political philosophical approach that has been proposed is capable of fully seizing this opportunity posed by multipolarity in the domain of geopolitics, but more importantly in the realm of ideas. Finally, it cannot be emphasized enough, in my opinion, that the fourth political theory, as Professor Dugin himself has said, is not a finished program. It's a proposal for a new beginning, which takes into consideration that there will not be one fourth political theory, but many fourth political theories and theorizations that must be authentic to their own existential horizons. So our conference today is structured around this core. We will be hearing a number of contributions from many different thinkers, different countries, and different trajectories. And in so doing, I'd like to present that we are realizing fourth political theorizing right here and now. Now, to present the technical aspects and regulations of our conference, for the sake of time convenience for participants, as well as for really representing the diversity of civilizations and cultures here, we've divided the panels more or less into time zones and regions. So, for example, we'll be starting with our contributors from South Asia, then move on to our guests from the Middle East and Caucasus, then to Russia, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, ending with our speakers from North and South America, and we have some messages and hopefully contributions from other continents as well. As for speakers have 5 minutes for their presentation. We ask that you please respect this time frame. When we near the 5-minute mark, you're going to hear a baseline music start, which will grow louder. I'm going to do a demonstration of that really quickly right now. So I hope everybody heard that. When you, as a speaker, start to hear this music, it's necessary to move to wrap up, to finish your speech. We have so many exciting presentations today that we really want to fit all of them in for a convenient time for everybody. Another note, please do not change anything with your microphones during the conference. There's just no need. The organizers and hosts of the conference will be effectively managing when it's time for someone to speak and so on. And when it is your turn, you will receive a message to confirm turning on your microphone. For the rest of the conference, microphones are muted simply because we have more than 100 participants here today and we don't want any distractions. Also, if this is sort of a crucial note, as if, so to speak, if anything happens to this conference, whether there's a signal disruption or a hacking or something else serious, participants will immediately receive a new link to a new conference room on their registration emails. So there's no worry about that there in case something does happen. Another important aspect which I need to touch on, and which I think should be representative of the spirit of the fourth political theory and fourth political theorizing, is that we have an open chat for comments, questions, etc. And on this freedom, it's important to stress again that 4PT in this conference are a polylog between cultures and traditions. For this reason, any presentation speeches or messages in the chat which are just plainly provocative or insulting or inappropriate spam or trolling, or speeches or messages with sweeping accusations or insults against whole peoples or religious traditions, or fixating on geopolitical antagonisms, those are highly discouraged and will be met with a warning and or possibly a ban from the conference room. As Professor Dugin has said, the important aspect here, perhaps the most fundamental, is polylog, even amidst difference and disagreement and uniqueness. Fourth political theory is not only about the deep pre-modern past, but also the post-globalization future. And we here today are like the philosophical or theoretical diplomats between cultures. We're engaging in multipolar philosophical diplomacy that modern politics denies. And it's this philosophical freedom and freedom of polylog that really should be understood to be incompatible with inappropriate usage of the chat. So let's please all stay positive, constructive, and engaged in deep dialogue. Finally, as many of you should already be aware, this conference is being recorded and it will be published online in the near future. So please act and behave accordingly. That concludes not only my opening remarks, but the general orientations for how this conference is going to work. Of course, any questions can be voiced in the chat, and hopefully one of our hosts will be able to get to it. So thank you, everybody, very much for your attention. Thank you to everyone for being here for this truly momentous event. And I now give the floor back to Professor Dugin.